Hey everyone, sorry if my voice sounds weird today, but my throat was fucked, and not in the fun way, and recording this video just made it worse. You will progressively hear my voice get worse throughout the video. Anyway, enjoy! Hey, so odd question. Did you know back in the 60s there was a gender-fluid princess who kicked ass and directly acted as the inspiration for the 2 anime that gay women won't shut up about? No? Well, here's the story of Sapphire. Princess Knight is about a girl named Sapphire who, because of weird laws that only make sense to someone who doesn't know how monarchies work, has to be raised as a boy to inherit the throne, otherwise the scheming Duke will be able to install a puppet heir of his own. It's to this end that the Duke is really invested in proving that Sapphire is a girl. What nobody knows initially is that Sapphire isn't just disguised as a boy, he also is one. See, in the world of Princess Knight, gender is associated with your heart. If you have a male heart, you're a boy, and if you have a female heart, you're a girl. Sapphire has both thanks to the pranking of a mischievous little cherub named Choppy, who gave Sapphire a blue boy's heart before she was born, and who was then given a real girl's heart immediately after by God. And frankly, I don't think there's ever been a better visual metaphor for how arbitrary gender is than God just shoving a colored heart down the throat of someone who has no idea why this is happening. Anyway, in the first episode, Choppy was sent to make a girl out of Sapphire by taking his male heart from her, but by the second episode appears to have resigned himself to the fact that Sapphire doesn't actually want that.
12 years have passed and I was told to make a very nice little girl out of you.
You are going to make a little girl out of me?
Hooray, Princess! You look so nice.
Oh no, I hate this.
Behave yourself like a good girl should.
Listen, I'm going to take these off.
Yes, I am, but tell me, has Prince Knight done anything wrong? Is he in some kind of trouble?
Not only does he need her heart because of all the monarchy bullshit, Sapphire has generally no real objections to his situation and is content to live and act like a boy without any real distress or objection to it. If anything, she shows more aversion to traditional femininity and is extremely uncomfortable having to wear dresses at different times in the show. So instead, God sends a horse to teach him to be a lady because, as we all know, horses are the secret arbiters of womanhood. You think all those horse girl movies exist because of the market? Hell no! It's the horse gods bestowing womanhood upon you and making you the horse girl you were always meant to be. But Choppy busts in and tries to talk Flying Horse out of it in a scene that is truly art brought to life.
Oh, Prince Knight! Flying Horse, promise me you won't do anything to Prince Knight. The prince must live and act like a boy as long as there are still bad people in this country. Understand? I'm glad you understand me, and say hello to everyone on Mount Olympus for me. I hope to see you again.
Truly every frame is a painting. After this episode, Sapphire's gender doesn't play a very big role in the story for quite some time, outside of the Duke's continued plans to try and usurp his claim to the throne and constantly finding other characters of either gender who look just like her that he could swap places with for hijinks. And occasionally there's a reminder that nobody needs to find out about her secret. Ironically, Sapphire's parents have a great deal of angst about what they're doing to their daughter, yet Sapphire's just like, yeah, this is fine, I'm good, I'm feeling very gender today. In the end, the secret gets out, there's a coup to overthrow the kingdom, it gets put down, and Sapphire marries a generic man who looks just like him. In some versions of the story, she keeps his male heart, in other versions she loses it. It's a cute little story, nothing necessarily to write home about, but I'd say it's worth a watch for anyone, honestly. If you like fun and you like silly cartoons of ye olden days, you'll like it. That's not why you clicked on this video. You wanted to know about that part. You see, Princess Knight is the first known animated property with a non-cis main character, but that itself comes with a mountain of caveats. See, Princess Knight was initially intended to be a feminist story about an empowered princess fighting bad guys. It's by virtue of some admittedly very dated writing decisions that Sapphire was even perceived to be non-cis in the first place. So let's talk a little bit about gender essentialism. Gender essentialism is a theoretical concept that posits that certain qualities are intrinsic to men and women, that one's gender naturally inclines them to act and innately be a certain way. It's not just an idea for weird misogynists either. A lot of schools of feminists use this framework as well. The problem with gender essentialism is that gender isn't a real thing. It's a social construct. What it means to be male and female are entirely invented by enforced cultural norms, and they have no real intrinsic value. The reason you associate femininity with dresses and flowers and masculinity with facial hair and tool belts is because you were taught to by your parents, who were taught taught by their parents, and so on and so on, and the only reason we do this is because that's the way it's always been. Pretty much every advancement forward in women's rights and trans rights is about shattering those binaries and expectations. I say this because Princess Knight is an interesting case study in that it both shatters some aspects of the gender binary, but in other places rigidly adheres to them. For example, in Princess Knight, gender is completely divorced from reproductive organs, as it should be, but is instead handed to the equally arbitrary concept of God shoving a blue or red heart down your throat. But it's also possible to have both. The human body just doesn't care. But those hearts influence your personality and likes and dislikes regarding things that humans invented, despite being given to you by a cosmic horror in the sky who should have no investment in these things, yet for some reason does. It's a very confused message. It's supposedly pro-feminist, yet also posits the idea that Sapphire can only defeat evil because she happened to also have a male heart, which, to the author's credit, is an issue remedied in certain prints of the comic by having Sapphire lose her male heart permanently, but that also ruins the very gender-curious element of the story. It's that very old, yet still very prevalent trope of women being empowered by symbolically borrowing masculinity, using sex to define a character's strength, power, and agency, which was a tired trope back in the 60s and is still tired today. It's the definition of a mixed bag, as it's trying to be pro-feminist and gender-curious, while working inside a sexist framework of gender essentialism, which for Japan in the 60s is a radical concept, but ages far less gracefully today. But you knew that already. You knew it didn't age gracefully. Is there any supposedly progressive message from 60 years ago that aged gracefully? This is precisely why I wanted to talk about it. Because when you look up animated works with LGBT characters, Princess Knight is usually the first, and it doesn't have the same amount of hardcore fans as other certainly not straight anime from the pre-2000s, like Rose of Versailles and Revolutionary Girl Utena, despite directly influencing both of them. So that means it doesn't have an army of people holding it up as definitely still relevant to today's audiences. And indeed, Rose of Versailles is usually right underneath Princess Knight. Like those, Princess Knight is relevant from an archaeological standpoint, and indeed as a counter to the modern mythology that LGBT rep was created by a few people who definitely worked very hard to bring good gay rep and were the key instrumental people in bringing gay characters to the world of animation. This hurts. But in truth, a lot of gender nonconformity in many popular characters can be traced back to this, which did so completely accidentally. Hell, while Sapphire is the first known not strictly binary gendered character in animation, can you guess who the first trans woman in animation was? It was this girl, Hibari, from Stop Hibari. Lily, that's not the full text. Shut up. Stop Hibari is a romantic comedy comic later turned into an animated show about a trans girl named Hibari who's just trying to live her life, takes no crap from anybody, and most of the comic and show's humor is about the comical overreaction to a trans girl's existence from characters who are painted as extremely unreasonable. Intended to be a parody of the cliche romance comics that were popular at the time and became popular with weebs again after the 90s anime boom, it was notable in that Hibari herself was never the subject of scorn or derision, and the only time she was derided, it was by comically villainous characters who were made fun of and subjected to slapstick. If this is all sounding like the setup to an episode of Family Guy, well, first of all, it literally was. And second of all, the humor is very much in the same camp. A lot of its humor at the expense of transphobes can, if you're determined enough, be read as humor at the expense of Hibari, and like literally every anime is very much subject to the passage of time. Hell, for all the quality of how Hibari is written, she's still misgendered in the title of her own book and show, which isn't good, but it is still a trans girl getting to live her life and not really having to give a shit about the objections of those around her, which I think is a net positive overall. I'd say Hibari's on the same level as Ida. Fine, not great. Worth a look at least, even if you come out feeling negatively about it. But I think in both of these cases, a measured look is worth it. It's very easy to latch onto crumbs from the past and say it was a different time, but the 60s and 80s were not that long ago, and I think we do a lot of people a disservice by not acknowledging both the way old rep has aged poorly, and by extension, the way things have improved now. It would only be an insult to all the modern leaps forward we have if we were to consider them on par with some half-formed ideas from 60 years ago. But it's worth it to know where we've been so we can more properly appreciate where we're at right now. Having the memory of a goldfish declaring the very next glimpse of a rainbow flag as revolutionary and groundbreaking is not a healthy mindset to have, and I think it's worth it to take a step back, look at some other material with a more critically discerning eye, and get some healthy perspective of the state of LGBT rep and animation. Because if you take anything from these two, It's that even if it's good, we can always be doing better, and we should always strive to get better. We deserve better. In fact, I like to speculate on better. See, I think a potential reboot of Princess Knight is a monkey's paw wish, as it's possible to give the show to someone who would really make something good out of it, but it's equally possible to give it to someone who wouldn't, and would fill it with the stench of modern anime fixation. Were it up to me, I think the best choice to head such a project would be maybe T. Franklin, but honestly, I'm going to destroy the notion of a reboot to describe what I would like to see done with the show. Were it up to me, I would keep the gender essentialist framework Princess Knight works under. No, really, follow me on this. Instead of it being the author's framework, it's the character's framework. Sapphire would still have her 2 hearts, and he would still believe that she needs his boy's heart to vanquish evil and inherit the throne, but as the story goes on, this idea is slowly unraveled, and it's revealed by the same angel that gave them to her that he doesn't really need the boy's heart to do these things. She was always able to do them. That these beliefs aren't held by the ones who gave him her heart in the first place, and instead the people he grew up around. As we near the finale, Sapphire comes to finally accept this, and when the angel offers to take the boy's heart away, Sapphire still refuses, saying it's still her heart and it's still a part of him, and a part she doesn't want to be without. Even if it's not a source of power, it's still a part of him that she loves, and parting with it would be quite literally heartbreaking. The angel comes to accept this and leave Sapphire be, and Sapphire fully and completely embraces himself, no longer feeling like she needs the boy's heart, but instead he just wants it because she loves every part of himself. I think that's really how you make Princess Knight work in the modern day. You take all of its ideas from the way back in the 60s and follow them through to their logical conclusion. Gender essentialism isn't real. You can't symbolically take gendered power that doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean you still can't love yourself either way. Whether or not you give up these things should be your choice based on what makes you happy. That'd be sweet. Let's normalize being happy. Crap, I think I said everything I normally say for the conclusion a few paragraphs ago. Okay, I swore I'd never do this, but like, comment, subscribe. Wow, I feel fucking dirty. I think I need a shower. Oh fuck, I forgot to mention the bell. Oh well, it's not like it matters. Who wants their phone pinged every time a YouTuber uploads? That sounds nightmarish. Besides, the reason they don't get notified is because they're subbed to 700 channels anyway. The bell's not gonna fix that.